All right, so this is going to be kind of a unique video here just because it's two kind of random parts here. I'm kind of working on the exhaust manifold, which you can see here, and I'm also going to talk about the harmonic balancer. I'm just kind of getting through some of these final small parts here. But as you can see with the exhaust manifold, I took this to get media blasted, and I decided that I'm going to just do away with the smog line there. And that's actually, you want to be careful with that because I made some mistakes doing it. You can see it's just pretty corroded. This one obviously has a hole in it, so I wouldn't even be reusing it, even if I was going to reuse all that smog stuff. And the one thing I learned, and again, this whole thing is a huge learning experience, is with anything like a cast iron, exhaust manifold, stuff like that, you pretty much can't remove any bolts out of it reliably without heat. And not even just like your little torch that you can get at Home Depot. I ended up having to use an acetylene torch, a high-powered torch that can really heat this up to the point where it's red hot, and then all these bolts will come out. But it's such a losing battle. I ended up rounding one of these. I don't even know. It's a bolt that kind of squeezes that thing in there. But yeah, it was a huge learning experience. Realistically, don't do this. Go to somewhere where they have a real heavy-duty torch, and I wouldn't try to remove anything until the exhaust manifold where you're trying to remove it is red hot. So that is the first thing to take into account here. So I may have gotten lucky here in removing the hot air intake because, like I said, removing bolts from an exhaust manifold is pretty tough without heat. But these came off okay. I would advise just being careful with that because maybe I did get lucky. The stuff that connects the smog tube to the manifold is actually pipe thread, so I would imagine it has a bit stronger grip. So maybe that's why I was able to do this without any problems. But yeah, just be careful there. This thing came off okay. This thing's actually, I believe, CAD plated, so we had to have my friend dip it in some kind of acid to get it off because media blasting wasn't doing anything. And we're going to try to get that re-CAD plated or at least clear zinc. We're not sure exactly of the original finish, but it looks pretty good with all that stuff off there. I wish I had a video of it. So when I was still a little bit more optimistic than I should have been about removing these bolts, I decided that I would cut off the smog tube. It's unusable. Even if I wanted to use it, I couldn't. There's holes in most of the joints there, actually. So I went over and sawed this off. But kind of a moot point because, these things actually come out super easy with heat, and they're next to impossible without it, again. So not exactly necessary. So as I was saying, this required an oxygen and acetylene torch to get these red hot to the point where we were happy to remove them and we weren't too afraid of it snapping off and just making things worse. You'll see even at this point, just listen to how it squeaks and you can hear just how much they're stuck inside there. I think even on this pass, we ended up heating it up even some more because it should be easier than this even. And yeah. So I used this Bill Hirsch cast iron gray paint. I was originally expecting there to be some kind of spray paint, but I was looking at the results of some of them and it looked like they had some kind of wonky colors. And this is so true to cast iron that when I started painting this, it was difficult to figure out where I had already painted. You can see the plugs we put in there. I can leave a link to where you can buy those in the description. But yeah, when I started painting this, it was almost difficult to tell because this thing had already been media blasted pretty good. This is more to preserve it because cast iron will rust pretty quickly, or at least just look faded. So I thought that the paint was a nice extra touch, even if at this moment it doesn't provide too much of a visual benefit. It is pretty nice altogether, which I'll show you soon. But this stuff is it's pretty hard to mess up, really. We use this foam brush, so I can just kind of squeeze it into the crevices here, and into the pores of this exhaust manifold, so to speak. And I did 2 total coats. I'll only show you the one here, and it says to do 2 light coats. I felt like I was putting this on pretty heavy, just because again it was kind of difficult to tell where I had already painted, especially when you're right up next to it. But it turned out great still. I think one thing, if I could go back, I would probably try to paint a little bit better where I was going to paint over. I decided that I would paint over the plugs, and I didn't quite squeeze enough in there. It's kind of tough. Maybe I would go back with like a Q-tip or something like that to get some of those crevices later on. But overall, I'm really happy with the result of it. I think it looks pretty cool, and it's just the longevity of it is so much better than just leaving a cast iron piece there. And you get an even finish with paint, obviously. So I'm very pleased with this and excited to see how it looks on the engine soon. So next I moved on to this harmonic balancer piece, and you can tell that there's another pulley bolted to the front of this, and I'm like 99% sure that that is for an air conditioner application or some form of auxiliary belt-driven kind of something. And I just removed that, and even if I did want to use that, it was way too corroded. You know, it wouldn't have been usable. I mean, it's eaten away at the edge there. You can see where it's kind of sharp on the bottom. So that would not have been usable anyway. But the harmonic balancer itself below was actually in great condition. There was almost no rust, and it was pretty easy to begin taking off some of the old, it was really just dirty and repaint it. So I threw this thing in the media blaster and blasted it with some fine glass beads, took away the dirt, paint. I accidentally took away some of the rubber on the front there, which is definitely not intended. So I used that same duplicolor combo of the primer and the Pontiac blue, their Pontiac blue that I think is pretty similar to Datsun blue right out of a rattle can. Yeah, looks just as good as all the other stuff. I think it's actually pretty close. So one of the interesting things I ran into is that on some harmonic balancers, you can see the rubber insert as it's a different color to the rest of the harmonic balancer. A lot of the new ones are black, so you can't really tell. I wasn't really sure because I know when a lot of people restore these, it looks like they do just what I did, and they just paint over the rubber. And it seems like I saw one that was new old stock of a slightly different type where it looked like it was blue, but I thought maybe the guy repainted it. I wasn't sure, but my dad told me that a lot of cars did have it where you could see it. So I figured if this one was blue, that maybe it has that insert there. And I found this picture here, which is, first of all, is awesome, and it gets me really excited about getting this engine done because I'm going for a very original finish. And it's kind of hard to find pictures of people that went for high originality with all the engine auxiliary components and stuff like that. So this one was cool. And it looks like to me like you can see the black rubber there. And I know not a lot of people are going to agree with me that that's what these things looked like, but that's what I decided to do with mine, and I'll show you how I did that. So I can kind of already tell I'm probably going to catch some flack for this, but what I did was I maxed off the inside and outside of it, which is actually pretty hard, obviously, to get the a good circle going around, especially inside. It's a little bit tougher doing the inside masking, but I did about as good as I could with that. And then I took some RTV gasket maker, a silicone-based gasket maker, and I don't think this is necessarily the best product because what I was trying to do was sort of just mush it in there and have it fill in so it would be kind of like a smooth bead of it across inside the crevice there. But for the life of me, I couldn't get it to really smooth out very well. So even though the circle was actually pretty even, it didn't look quite as clean as I would have liked to just because it looks kind of rough there. I guess that's sort of what rubber would have looked like. This is obviously not a necessary thing. This is just cosmetic anyway. But that was my main problem with it, is that it didn't quite look how I was hoping it did. But all things considered, I don't really hate it. I think it could definitely be better, and I might even go back and try to redo it with some kind of better material in the middle there. Or maybe I just take everything off again and try to really clean the rubber well and then paint just the non-rubber components. I'm not sure, but I actually don't think it looks terrible. All right, so that's going to do it for the 12th video here, which is just crazy to say. I'm getting really excited with this project, and it's cool how much we've done so far. As you can see, I just completed wire wheeling the oil pan bolts, which may make you rethink your existence in life. There's like 20 of them at least, and they're tiny, and that is not a fun job. But I have a lot more of that to do with some little bolts and minor components and stuff like that, and I'm going to do a video on all that. And taking that to get zinc plated. I think that'll be a cool video to inventory everything and show you what that place looks like and kind of give you an idea on price and things like that. And then it's going to be going back to the machine shop and finishing the cylinder head with them and installing it on the engine, and they're going to help me do timing and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be very much professional led, and that'll be cool. And yeah, if you guys have been watching these videos, I would appreciate, if you're not already, if you could subscribe. And I hate when people say this stuff on these videos, but it does actually help when you like. I notice when when people like the video more often in the early stages, that YouTube does kind of prop it up into community. So I guess in this case, it would get propped up more into people who like Datsun, Nissan stuff, and L series engines, and they're pretty good at finding those people. At least they're pretty good at finding me and showing me videos of that stuff. But yeah, again, it's cool to be on video 12. Thank you for everyone who watches these, and I'm really excited to move on. And that picture of the engine from Nissan that installing into the 240Z got me super excited, because I haven't seen one quite to the level of originality with everything on it, and I think mine is going to be hopefully a recreation of that in high definition. Anyway, thank you guys. I really appreciate it, and take care.